Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, all. Can you hear me? Can you... I sure hope you can see me. Good morning to everybody. It is wonderful to see you all. You're going to be, going down deep into some interesting lore that I've been thinking about this week, especially in regards to the new character experience. I'll explain that as we're going. Good to see everybody. How is everybody doing? You ain't kidding. That snake's seen a lot. And actually, that snake is now in the other iteration of my existence in Warframe as well. So, is the microphone too overbearing? Is it too loud? Is it good? I listened to my Warframe 1999 stream, and it's almost to the point where I can't even watch that stream because my voice is so loud and overbearing that I just it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to be monitoring from this point forward. Okay. Yeah, that snake's everywhere now. So, let's see, where are we at with this character? This character's got a ton to do because I'm actually going to be doing the majority of the playing, if you will, on stream, unless I have to like do some kind of like little grinding here and there or something like that. But for the most part, we don't got much going on. I wonder if I even have any campaign. Ooh, I do. Just put them all on, I guess. I have like 150 endo, so I guess it can matter on that one. That being said, if there is one to kind of upgrade, we probably want to... This is the only one that matters in the early game. Can it? Do I have enough? Nope. Do I have enough? Yeah, nope. Damn. Okay. So what's warframing? I guess in a nutshell, warframing in the lore sense would be, in the grand scheme of things, Warframe has become a mystery at its core, and it keeps expounding upon that. In the beginning, it was essentially, what was the Warframe? Like, where did the Warframes come from? What exactly were they? And then, as time's gone on, we've realized what they are, what's controlling them. So now the story is beginning to evolve into a kind of a different thing. Now that mystery is solved, new mysteries have made themselves apparent. Like, exactly how did we come across these powers? What was the... I mean, we know now exactly what gave them to us, but we don't still know the bargain. We can insinuate a lot, but there's no definitive thing in the game yet that says that. So now the mystery has changed to what do we owe versus what's how did this all happen? And on top of that, we have in the newest quest that's just been released its own whodunit, if you will, because now there's also a antagonist character that we still don't know who or what its intentions are, meaning that, and I think within the community especially, the man on the wall is a deeply divisive character in exactly if he's a good guy or if he's a bad guy, or protagonist, antagonist. And I think that throughout the expanse of, if you asked everybody that actually knows anything about it, you probably have a pretty, let's say, I think it'd be a pretty even split on who is siding with who. And yeah, I'm just mastering this. This is not my second character, mind you. So it's actually my girl's character, but she never plays, and it's been horribly neglected. So, if anybody wants to join me, I think today what we're going to be doing, I'll get into a quest. I'll do that. In fact, we could probably just do once a week, but I'm also going to grind a little bit of Earth because this character needs resources. So I'll do the quest first, and then we'll get into some grindage, if you will. Let's go do once a week because there's some interesting stuff here going on as far as this quest in particular, and it's actually is that my dog? Sometimes when she goes into my boy's room, she'll get up on the bed, and it's like now she's got her perch that she can purvey the entirety of the neighborhood, and she polices it. So. All right.
Tenno, we have intercepted an alarming transmission. The Grineer have obtained samples of the infestation that once ravaged the Orokin. A scientist named Dr. Tangus intends to integrate the samples into his bioweapon research. The Grineer believe they can control the infestation. They are mistaken. We must investigate the laboratory on Mercury immediately. Hurry to M Prime.
So cool stuff here because it's very interesting to understand that this quest had to be manipulated. What we don't know is if the manipulation from the first time that we all played it when we were, years ago when this thing first came out to now, the question we have to ask is it basically a recontextualization, a retcon, or is it just the story playing out? And we'll get into that a little bit today. It's kind of on the lines of I had mentioned earlier that we were going to get into the reason why I put the man in the wall in the female variation that's on the wiki, especially. And I think was the kind of the face of Whispers in the Walls, if you will, in its Tenno form. One, because this character is a female character, so that obviously worked out. But two, it's weird to now think of the Warframe story.
I've identified several vulnerable data consoles on this base.
I'll give her time.
And hack in. We need to know the nature of their new bioweapon.
The Tenno, keep them away from the specimens.
Well, now, I know that we want to say retcon.
Them. Dr. Tangus demands absolute secrecy.
But I don't think that's actually the case. And I think that you can make the very, very real insinuation that much like how Kylie in the Necrolisk is hearing Party of Your Lifetime, even though that shouldn't exist in our time, it does appear like aspects of the 1999 area are beginning to manifest in the real, meaning that you can, in like the I guess for the best reference purposes, the sacred timeline or the prime timeline that we're in. And, there's different instances now where we can definitively say that, especially with the coming Coda thing, that things that are happening in 1999 are... Oh, maybe I went the wrong way. that things that are happening in 1999, if they are appearing in our timeline now, that means that it's basically overwriting what is occurring. And if that's the case, then this isn't necessarily a retcon. It's actually this conceptualized timeline imprinting itself upon our previous one. And what's cool about it is, I mean, if you buy into this, is that now
The target console
new
is nearby.
Tenno
If
that
you trigger the alarms
show
now,
up now
you will start destroying data.
will never understand the concept of the old timeline, right? But older Tenno will always know about what occurred. It's been a while since I've done a bunch of these things, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. Well, that's that Into the Void, isn't it? Oh man, that song's awesome. Oh, is it just okay? There's no enemies. Nice. I was expecting to just get absolutely just bombarded by a bunch of stuff, because I think the last time I did anything like this was like a sortie.
Data extracted. They won't even know it's gone.
Well, technically, I don't know if the Jade Eximus. See, this is a weird thing with. Okay, first of all, let's get into the first point. I think that the Jade Eximus in 1999 is actually, isn't it like a fervent, or I can't remember what the name of it is, because it's in two different. Wow, that hurt. It's in two different variations. They call it something a little bit different in Dark Sector. I can't remember what. Which I have to get back to that. That's a stream I got. I've just been busy, guys. I'm sorry. The streaming has been. Well, I wanted to do two streams this weekend. Yes, last night I did a members only stream. That's something I'm going to be starting here, moving forward. So, if you guys are interested, any that haven't signed up for membership, it's going to be kind of another little thing that we're going to be doing every weekend, or it's just going to be us playing Warframe essentially, or something else, something everybody's interested in at the time. Typically, or usually, it'll be Warframe. Okay, and Furon in Dark Sector and a Fervon. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. But isn't it weird that now, in the tank fight, right? It has the ability to take away the Warframe's powers. I mean, that's pretty significant, don't you think? Like, completely eliminate them, almost in the same way as, like the, what are those units called again? The ones that block out your stuff. And it's like, it's pretty interesting that they would have that technology. Way back then, it would know already that it works. Kind of goes back to my thing of the. I'm not 100% certain that 1999 is a timeline, rather something that was created. Much like Duviri, but I know I have a lot of people that disagree with that, but it's just the whole concept of us redoing 1999 like 12 times a year just seems like it would have incredibly detrimental effects on the actual 1999 timeline. Wouldn't that just screw with people's brains? I don't know. Like I said, to me, I just find that very interesting that there's something that in 1999 that would be so efficient against essentially something that's in many ways almost godlike, you know, like they just rolled right out with it. Hey, look what we got, something that can screw up your Warframes. Cool. I understand the gameplay mechanic of it, but lore-wise, if people in our time with all the advanced technology have trouble with Warframes, like, do you know where I'm going with this? Like, wouldn't the idea be out already that, oh, look, hey, if you're up against a Warframe, just use some of this, the Fervon, you can just totally get rid of their abilities. Like, no problem.
If you trigger the alarms now, the enemy
Ooh,
will
that's
start
something else we can
destroying
talk
data.
about there later. We got to get into Palace, because I've been looking into continuity. I don't think he's dead. In fact, I don't think any of the 7 are dead. Well, that's a good thing, because Warframe allows you to take Umbra and farm in any timeline that you'd like. Excuse me, sir. I'm trying to do. Chat, and again, if you would, because of this old man and his bad eyesight, if you have a specific question that you want to ask me, just tag my name in the question, so it comes up nice and orange, and I can see it. And I can keep track of the questions too without having to look through the whole timeline there.
Get to extraction.
Dum, dum,
Who
dum,
let them
dum.
out? Was it Tengus?
Tengus did this. I know he did.
Angus.
Someone released these creatures on
that's a good one.
purpose. They want them to destroy you.
There's a lot of potential with the fanfic for Umbra. There really is. You know, I'm just realizing now that I don't think I equipped the Taxon's weapon. Did I? That's great. Good job. See, there's these things that you just take for granted being a veteran. You know, it's just like, oh, I don't really care, or something. And then now you're here with a character that has, you know, literally no abilities of any significance. Well, I guess against level 6s, they're pretty potent. I've played First Descendant, and you know what? I loved it in the very beginning. I liked the gunplay. I thought was really fun. I liked the abilities. I loved the the Titan fights or whatever they are. I can't remember what's the name of them.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Ted.
Yoshi, yeah, I'd say that's. If you ever get that like fleshed out, post it up on one of my videos, or send it to me on my email. I'd be interested in hearing that.
Tenno, we have an emergency situation developing. It's more infested. Get to the node I've marked on your navigation console.
Mm-hmm. There's so many things we have to do now. Oh, wait. Before we do that, let me do this. There we go. Oh, look, I actually have some stuffs too. Oh, nope. Okay. This is like the most important early game mod. Hey, so how are you, bud? absolutely. It's definitely possible for Wally to control a Warframe. If Wally can control a vessel, then he can control a Warframe. I don't know how else to say it in a way that, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like if he can do that, I mean, because essentially it's our power that's you know, being, or his power, I should say, that's being used for us to do the things as it is. So, Warframe story is so deep. It's so good.
The infestation, but was quickly overrun. Exterminate everything on board before it reaches a more populated sector.
It's weird because, like I said, you just if you're a veteran and just going back and playing some of these just regular missions with regular guns. It kind of does feel a lot like 1999 in ways, like the beginning part, you know, whenever you're kind of stripped of most of your stuff. Although even then, I'd say that you have a better loadout than, I mean, I don't even think my Intensify is leveled up yet. So, or maybe like one level? No, you're not being annoying. Hello, Jama. Hey, Dodge. How are you? Good to see you again. Thank you for the help last night. That was cool. That was actually a really fun run. And I got a lot of good stuff. That was a great looking end game screen there with all the rewards. Oh, there she goes again.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
Oh, yeah, there we go. It's not a Harrow, it's Morrow. You're not too late, but yeah, it's true. The only person who really knows is Albrecht. Oh, they're downstairs, huh? Just gotta get that one. Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate that. I'll be honest with you. One of the things that I love about Warframe is that I think if you get the right setup and you build correctly, it's the first game that I can remember that I literally do not have to. Again, you're gonna have to work for it to get it to do this, but. Did I just miss the one thing that, the one lore thing that I wanted to, where they talk about it predates the Orokin and with the radiation wars? Did I just miss that? And it is good to see you, Gemma. This weekend we'll be doing our streams again. So if you can make it, that would be cool. Yeah, I think you're right about the end of War Within. It did.
The enemy is broken. Well done.
That's the, so there you go. The question that I'm looking at is, do you think Wally is the final boss? That was the exact point that I was trying to make, is that I think 50% of the Warframe community that understand, you know, what's going on would say yes, and 50% would say no, it's Albrecht. And I think that is if you ask me, that is the triumph of what DE is doing with their storytelling right now. See, now that is what brings you back for the next thing. Even if you don't even want to play, when there's a great story and you want to get to it, it's kind of like in the same situation of like it's kind of the same situation of like you being into a great TV show, and then the next season's coming. It's like you just want to know what's going to happen next. And then there's the I don't think it's either. Hey Joe, how are you, buddy? Yeah, we had the one last night. That's gonna be just for members, and that'll, as soon as I figure out a day that everybody's good with. Let's see. Tenno, this is from one of Dr. Tengu's reports. The additional test Marines have arrived. The specimens tore through the previous batch much faster than predicted. It should be noted that Marines who survived the longest were using fire-based weapons. Ooh. The Infested are vulnerable to fire. I've sent a fire damage mod for you to install on your melee weapon. It should aid you in your coming mission. The Lotus. Okay, take what you just heard and put it into a female voice, because it's probably not going to sound right now. That being said, that is true. Albrecht's statue is one of the first things that you are shown in the game,
I must say,
and now, in hindsight, it makes you really wonder about it, like if that wasn't the... Wait, where's... what was that?
The Lotus would like you to install that mod as soon as...
Now!
Oh, look, we got all kinds of stuff going on here. Man. Dude, the other one I really want to put on, I can't. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. Oh, no, I do have. It's almost leveled up. Woo! Okay, that sounds good. I'm trying to figure out a way. It's a lot harder to make a VTuber model, Hijau, than I anticipated. I have to be honest. Like, there's a lot of the artistic end of it but it is something that wouldn't be the worst thing for certain ones of my videos, and I would like to actually put it in there. So yeah, yes, please finish that thing. So, Blader, in the very very first quest, Awakening, when the Warframes are shown in that, like, a temple that's kind of, it's all falling down, like, basically crumbling, like, as they say, oh, the Warframes, then they went to sleep, or they were, then they were gone. You can see Entradi's statue, kind of the prominent one that, especially when you're in the heart area, in the heart of Deimos, in the Necrolisc, the statues that are on the right and the left, that's the exact same statue that's sitting right there. Me neither. I am still trying to do that, though.
We are going to attempt to use a cascade bomb to destroy all traces of Infested here. The bomb will take time to arm. Protect it until it's ready for detonation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would say I really wish they I wish that Warframe allowed for us to have a second character. And when I say second character, I mean one that can have access to all the stuff that we've already done. Not like this. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is great, but I just feel like having the ability to go through all the quests with the stuff that you have now, if you want to make it mastery rank locked or whatever so that you can only use certain weapons and stuff, that's fine. But the goal shouldn't necessarily be to put you through the entire grind of Warframe just to have another character that you can use. Like, even if, say, you wanted a female character, if you're already using a male one, like as far as Tenno is concerned, like kind of like how with Destiny, you know, they do it. You know, there's certain things that are specific to, you know, each guardian, but you can use all their weapons and yeah, like a new game plus. That would be really great, you know. But I want all the story. I want the whole thing. Like, I don't just want the replay stuff, because I was mentioning this in the stream last night that there's a bunch of different quests that when you replay the quest, it omits a lot of important things. Like, and for whatever reason, a lot of it seems man in the wall related. I don't really know why, but you know, Rising Tide and Whispers in the Walls are two in particular that if you replay the quest, you don't get very, very important scenes, so you can't see them again. And then there's also the quests that you absolutely can't play. Like, I'd like to see the Chimera quest now. That's a new one or an older one that I would like to see under the like how the context of the game is now.
When this cascade bomb goes off, a wave of void energy will tear through the complex, ripping the life force from all.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I mean, it would give DA more options to even, you know, make cosmetics that are specific for one thing, you know, so that they could monetize more if you think about it. You know, have stuff that's unisex, you know, for either side, but then have stuff that's, you know, specific for one or the other. And I mean, it doesn't mean that, you know, one can't wear the one or one can't wear the other, but I think you get my point. Yeah, then there's a lot of details between quests. Exactly. That's exactly my point. Really, really like to see that, because I just feel like doing something like this is, it's great. I mean, it's great, but it's a lot of additional time. And yes, as being a veteran, you can kind of like bypass some things because you understand, like, you know, how to level quicker, you understand how to, you know, what you need to do as far as mastery rank and all that other stuff, but like, I would rather kind of cut that all out. Just have a second character for those that have already been through it. I mean, heck, maybe it's a reward for hitting mastery rank 30 or legendary rank 1 or something like that, you know? Hello, Revenant. Oh, there she goes again. Is it Maya or Mara? Because if it's Mara, that doesn't necessarily denote a name. It's more, it may be a concept. Because I think we're all Mara Loke. She's doing wonderful. I mean, she doesn't even know what she looks like yet. But then again, you know, neither do we. So it's gonna be pretty crazy. Whoa.
The bomb is almost armed. You just have to hold out a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that you know what? That's a really good point because you already know the little bull crap that you're gonna have to go through, like the annoying stuff to get the things that you want. Like, you know what I'm dreading is I gotta go with this character to Cetus now and grind for those little those little 7 drain, strength, range, and duration mods that you can get there. And I know that's going to take a while to get. Oh, maybe. Okay, that's possible. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know what it would require from DE. That could be the main thing that's keeping them from doing it. I mean, I have no clue what that would entail as far as coding and everything else like that. But aside from that, I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't make sense, because I feel like you'd have a bunch of veterans that probably don't play much because they just don't have anything to do, that if for nothing else to go through on another character and do a bunch of stuff like that, you'd get a bunch of engagement from it, like additional just, and you'd really not be adding, aside from the ability to do it, you wouldn't be really adding a lot of, well, anything. you wouldn't be adding anything. Yeah, then there's that thing. That's another, the Duviri thing. And that's, okay, so what's even weirder is that, I can play Duviri with this character, and it's all well and good, but say that I don't know yet that I'm going to be able to customize my character to the point where I can change them to male or female or whatever. And I make the character look just like, because I didn't think about it or whatever, and I just make my character look like the Drifter from the cutscene, only to find out later that that person is the same person as somebody that I want to. It's very strange. It is a.
Tenno.
Oh yes.
You have done well to contain the infested outbreak, but I am troubled. Dr. Tangus was but one of many reckless Grineer eager to gain favor with his queens. We have also received a message from Saya. I suspect it relates to these troubling events.
Tenno.
Now this part's interesting.
I have been plagued by strange visions of the infestation. They're warnings from Kome herself. I'm sure of it. Krona Meta. Come see me in Cetus. Together, we can overcome a terrible fate. Be well.
Okay, so when I was playing this here, I was actually kind of going back through this to see what had been changed and whatnot. I was like, I bet you they added this just recently. But amazingly enough, on my other character, I went back and found this email. And even back in 2017, they had mentioned Kume. So I don't know if that was something that they had always planned, because we didn't get the shrine. But at the same time, this is not like a new change in the quest, if you will. Whereas the thing that I missed is that in the older variation of Once Awake, we were essentially it was kind of implied that the Orokin were the ones who created the infestation. And I think it's what most people believed right up until just recently with Warframe 1999. And now in this quest, they've added a new dialogue line that I went over just briefly that said something to the effect of the Infested appears to predate even the Orokin, appearing to go back to potentially even before the Radiation Wars. So, again, as we were talking about, there's this concept of, yes, it's a retcon, but if you look at it from the same perspective of the Coda and going to the Necrolisk and hearing Kylie listening to Part of Your Lifetime, you can also make the case that it's not a retcon and that the Warframe 1999 timeline is beginning to imprint itself upon the Prime, if you will. And I wonder if this is what Entrati was talking about in Warframe 1999 when he said, "This is the breach. With each cycle, more seeps in." Are we saying is the void timeline beginning to seep into the real timeline? And was Entrati's idea that by killing Rusalka at that point, that this breach could be closed?
Operator, did you hear that? It said...
Well, that's true, SideQuest.
Cosmic
Yeah,
background
they have
radiation is a
retconned other
riot.
things. But I'm just saying, in this particular quest, or this particular thing, it might not necessarily be a retcon. Well, Divinity, I actually said that I think Duviri should have been a different point, but I think it should have been from the perspective of the drifter. So you would start out as the drifter. You would do Duviri first, and then at the end you would be allowed to essentially come in, like how it is in the quest, and take on the persona of the Tenno. And then the way I would have done it, I mean, this is only just me, but basically you would put them through the whole quest, or the whole thing, the whole beginner's thing from beginner to end, under the guise of seeing the memories, if you will, of the Tenno as they got to that point. Well, okay, wait. No, Duviri isn't locked behind. Because I can play it right now. You can't play it first, but it's available. In fact, by all rights, it's the quest that it's kind of telling me to do next. If I was a new player and didn't understand what was going on, this is what I would be doing. Your Duviri next. But we are certainly not doing that. We're gonna wait for Duviri. Although which sucks because I really. Oh, okay, yeah, good point. Side quests. So this is kind of an older quest. So when did they change that? That's a good point. This is an older account it's not too old. It was probably started about maybe a year, 2 years ago. But at the same time, yeah. Okay, you're right. I'm wrong. All right, I guess I'll just do this mobile defense real quick. That makes sense. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Because I was incorrect on that. Okay, so that's what it was. See, like I said, my thought was to start out. That would have been the first. You could have had one of two choices. You could have done the drifter route, or you could have done the Tenno route. Or, I mean, I guess if you
This is a mobile defense mission.
if you wanted to make it more
must
lore
deliver
accurate for
payloads
new
and defend a
players,
number of
it
locations while
almost seems like the
imprinting to the
Duviri
network.
route would be the
Be
new
prepared for
starting
heavy
point
resistance. I can't do
because
this
of
without you.
everything that we know. Not to mention the fact that, like, back in the day when we were first doing it, like, you didn't see a lot of Tenno everywhere hopping out of Warframes and stuff like that. Now it would be so commonplace that it would probably make new players really wonder, like, what is going on here, you know?
This will only get more difficult. Get to a terminal and prepare for enemy resistance. Here is a terminal. Get me in and get ready to defend. I'm in, Tenno. This will take a moment.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It would be an odd kind of, well, I don't know. I think it'd actually be pretty cool to start with Duviri and then to go through the whole Tenno thing. They can even have a little thing where, like, your drifter, like, finds it odd that of what's even going on, you know, like the fact that they're in this Warframe now instead of in their own body.
There's a heavy unit approaching.
And it would be almost like in that variation, it would be like a quest to find your Tenno's body versus being surprised by the concept of it. Yeah. Or you could even, like I said, you could even, like, the way that it... See, the new war would be a weird one to kind of throw it. You'd have to almost do the new war. Yeah, you'd have to do new war second. And then it would have to kind of go back. That'd be a weird one. Or kind of onto my earlier thing. Maybe make the new, maybe you wouldn't even have to change anything. The new war would be more of a revelation of what was happening for,
Location reached.
like, who was behind everything that was going on versus it being about discovering that there was a second variation. Because you kind of already know it, so that,
This will take a moment.
you know, I think that was the big reveal, if you will, the interesting part. But being, if you started with the drifter, you'd already kind of know that there was some other thing, right?
Still working on it. Continue to defend.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting now is the chronological, or the, yeah, timeline order of Warframe is very different if you think about it. I mean, in all reality, the information that we're given,
Area completed.
the
Move on.
events of the new war are actually way early in the timeline. Like, they're before here. At least an aspect of it, the reveal, if you will. You know, like what we're doing right now, technically what happened in the new war, it's already occurred. So that was kind of the point that I wanted to bring up earlier about why the thumbnail has the man on the wall. It's that in this playthrough, I already know who gave me my power. You know? I know the deal. Like I get it. I know how I have all this stuff. I know where my body is. I know it's a lure right now, even though the game doesn't, have that. I do. I have that knowledge. So it's a very different game.
Terminal spotted. Upload me and prepare to defend.
Yeah, if you think about it, because we were our Tenno right now
This will take a moment.
has the power of the man on the wall. This character right here that doesn't even realize that they're out
There's
of
a heavy unit approaching.
that they're not a Warframe, right? Technically, by the canon of this story, they have already made the deal with the man on the wall. So if you think about it from that perspective, the events, many of the events from the new war, have already occurred.
Continue
All
to
the
defend.
flashback parts. So in that regard, it's a much different story for a new character, for a second character, because you already know who gave you power. There's no theories anymore. And you know when it happened, and you know why it happened. And I mean, you have a completely different perspective on what the
odds were
Tenno
against us,
is
Tenno,
even, what their
but we did it.
purpose is for,
Mission complete.
than you did if you were a veteran. And like, say, let's started playing the game at least before the new war, if nothing else. Maybe even before Second Dream, but definitely before the new war. You have a completely different concept of what you're even doing in the game now. This will happen again, and it's already happened before. I think you're all going to really like my take on Eternalism. We're going to do Eternalism, and we're also going to do continuity, because I think those are two concepts that these will be in videos that I'm going to be putting out. Eternalism, and understand there's a ton of research I had to put in for these, because there's so much new context in both of these, like previously, at least in some capacity, understood concepts in Warframe after the new war and after Whispers in the Walls and after Warframe 1999 and the Hex.
Always
I
a
need to
pleasure.
do here anything.
Ta-ta, lovelies.
Yeah. Let's go do the Marsh Junction. Yeah, I agree that the hex skins are a little. They're cool. They look great, and I love the little dialogue that you get while you're playing with them. I think that part is fabulous, right? But I just wish that whenever you are, like, when they're on their own, I wish that they were coded like Umbra, because it would be so much more interesting and so much more realistic if they could just like walk around and stuff, you know? Loki, huh? Wait, what? How did I go down? Wait, people don't like Umbra being able to walk around? Is that for real? No, come on. I personally think that's one of the greatest things. I love Umbra, only for that reason. That like he gets to like hang out with me on the mission. I can pop out of him. We get to run around together and hack away and have like a little fun jaunt together. Oh man, I just absolutely adore. I didn't know people didn't like that.
This is how we turn this system around. I'll take you there.
No, I'd really like to see that new game plus. I'm telling you. Stick that in there.
Void relics. What a baffling concept. Ordis will try to understand void relics again. They say the contents of a relic are simultaneously this thing,
Oh,
or
he's
this
bugged?
thing, or this thing, but also that
I didn't know
thing,
that.
and certainly never just one thing. That is, until it's exposed to a void fissure. And at that point, all the possibilities collapse, each one falling away until the relic cracks open and exposes one singular thing. Then, against all tenets of logic, that thing becomes the only thing the relic ever contained.
Umbra's passive removes spells. I didn't even know that.
Ordis
Doge,
prefers
thank you, buddy.
known quantities.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
very much.
Joining up again?
Operator, Ordis has been interfacing with the Foundry's AI precepts. You could say we forged.
It's good to
a new
have you. So
connection.
for the members only streams, when we're going into high level content, I can have somebody carry me. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Appreciate that. Yeah, void relics are also superposition. That's essentially the exact same definition of the concept of superposition. In real life superposition, where you essentially have a theoretical, it's the whole Schrodinger's cat thing, that essentially before, if you have a situation where there could be a cat in there when a gas is released at a particular moment, it could either be alive or dead based upon when you actually observe it. So before then, it exists in a superposition of being both alive and dead, and only becomes material whenever you observe it.
A new quest is available in your codex.
Oh, Heart of Deimos. All right, well, hold on. Before I get into all these quests, I'm going to end up getting my butt kicked in. I need to grindish just a little bit of resources, if you will. If that's all right with y'all while we're talking lore. Maybe upgrade a few things in the process. But it is crazy, though, how much, in hindsight, when you look at the story, because I think that explanation of void relics has been there for years, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it put in right around the New War? I'd have to look just to make sure. But if it is an older thing, that would mean that the concept of Eternalism was something that they had always at least had baked into the game. I thought so too. So if that's the case, then
Sorry.
Eternalism has essentially been in a concept method, at least, if nothing else, for at least that long.
Operator, you have remembered well how the Tenno arm themselves.
I really haven't remembered that well yet. We're getting there, though. We have nothing. I just remember this. This was the joy back in the day. Remember whenever it was like, you had literally nothing. Did they ever explain Eximus? I think in the Codex there's an explanation of the Eximus. It's escaping my brain at the moment, though, I won't lie.
We are here to excavate long-buried artifacts crucial to our cause. Marking the first dig site.
There you go. Eximus explained. Some resources. Okay. I wasn't expecting him to just, fly right out there into the water. Let me get this. Get some mastery rank here. XP. It's true. It's interesting because in most cases, Eternalism is a terrible plot device, right? But because Warframe decided to take it and make it unique and explain its concept, right? It makes something that would typically just be a plot contrivance into a main story component, thereby allowing it to not just be an interesting thing, but unique without being unique. Which, I mean, you got to give it up to them. Who thought about that? Yeah, I mean, it but you can also say in the same breath that its capabilities can absolutely be like a plot, like a...
This excavator is fully powered. Additional fuel cells will be used to restore its shield.
Like a catch-all for any type of bad writing, because you can always go back in time and change things, which is like one of the main weaknesses of typically of back in time stories, if you will. Whenever they utilize that, it's typically a method by which writers try to get themselves out of situations that they can't normally do, again, with any kind of like real good method, and instead they're kind of forced to use time travel.
Look what we found.
But in this case, because it functions as the fulcrum of the Warframe story, it's not only acceptable, it's actually interesting. And that's what you got to do. Does anybody have an interest in music? And you'll see where this is going in a second. I'm just going to get just one more of these, if you will. You'll see where this is headed. If you love music and you love kind of parody type situations, there's a YouTuber named Pat Finnerty.
Excavator is ready to go.
And he has a series called What Makes This Song Stink?
An artifact has been located.
And he goes after some questionable hits that have come out over the years, if you will. But the point that I wanted to make is that there is, in one of his videos, he talks about the concept of Huey Lewis and the News, Ray Parker Jr., and the Ghostbusters theme. See, at the time, they wanted Huey Lewis to, and I remember this too, they wanted him to, in the news to do the theme song for Ghostbusters. But Huey Lewis didn't want to do it. So they went out and they got Ray Parker Jr. to do a song, and it's almost identical to one of Huey Lewis's songs. I think it's I Want a New Drug. But he says, Pat Finnerty goes on to say that what makes it important is that there's a part in the Ghostbusters theme that is unique. And that's the part where he sings about, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. You know, and that is essentially the best part of both of the songs. See? And with that, it allows the same concept of what I'm talking about with what Warframe's done. They've taken something that has been used countless times, but because they put a unique spin on it, it's become fresh and interesting and new. And if you ask me, I think the concept of eternalism is it's broader and more interesting than just time travel. Pat Finnerty is the name. I think we're going to get a lot more story this year. Yeah, yes, absolutely. I absolutely think we got a bunch more coming. It could be just me, but I think DE has a direction. And when you have a direction and you have an idea of what you want to do, and you have a story mapped out, which it does seem like they have like I said, a definitive path they're heading on. It's very easy to write when you have that. Not to mention that, especially when you consider DE, that most of the people that are writing the story, I would assume, are the people that have always been writing the story, like for years and years and years and years. So they have the context of the stuff in the past to pull from for the future. And with that, again, it's kind of in the same breath of whenever I have a video, it doesn't get done until all the concept of what I want is kind of thought through. What exactly do I want to present? But the minute that I know definitively what I want to present, how I want it presented, it's very easy to write a script at that point because it just flows because you already have the idea. All you need to do is fill in the blanks.
There I go again.
Yeah, that's true. Great artists do. You have to in ways, you know. There's really no other way to go about it. You have to take, but you have to do it in a way that doesn't just copy. You know, because then you're not doing anything. You're not taking whatever art that you've used and improving upon it in any way. You're just representing the same thing.
And we're out.
You got to make it special if you want to be taken seriously with it, and at the same time have obviously, been influenced by someone in particular. But music is a great example of that. Music in particular is largely based off of inspiration. I would say 90% of music nowadays, for the past however many years, is based upon what artists enjoyed prior to that. They didn't come up with new stuff themselves, you know? That's a good point too. Yeah. Are you just trying to emulate their success, or are you trying to create something that's significant? And in today's grifter reality that we have, it's just the way it is. Whatever reason you want to give, the fact that people need money, people broke, whatever. we have a society that's kind of turned very much in that way, and that's just this. It's how you have to function at this point, you know. Sadly, even when you try to rail against it, if you have issues with it, you're only going to end up hurting yourself in the process. But you know, there are those who keep that creativity going and continue to make stuff that's worth you know, investing your time in. If you ask me, you just have to kind of search them out. It's not as easy as it used to be, where you know, you would see something that had tons of views or something like that, and you would most likely know that it was either, you know, something interesting in the method of, you know, something really bad happened or something, or that someone had put a lot of time behind it and it was really something special. And nowadays, I don't necessarily know if that's the case. Any number of reasons behind things. And high view counts and even high like counts don't necessarily correlate with what I would call
remove the biocatalyst from the mixer to halt the green
art,
poison's creation.
if you will.
Take care when destroying the biocatalyst cartridge. It is highly explosive. Head to the poison injector now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel okay. So in regards to the comment about the hex and how quickly we were able to update them, essentially get to max rank with all of them. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that they were trying to that story needed to come to its completion. Do you know what I'm saying? So they couldn't. I had originally thought that they were going to push that year out, because, I mean, this was right after the quest came out, understand? But my initial thought was like, are they going to push this year out to an entire year? You know, like we would be essentially in the year 1999. And at the end of it, we would come to, you know, the next quest that they were going to be doing. And I thought that all of our stories would be kind of truncated to over the course of this year, instead of being, you know, on this planet, that planet, whatever, would all be kind of comprised into just the Warframe 1999 universe. I was not anticipating them to essentially be doing the Warframe, or I should say 1999 12 times in a year, essentially, or whatever it's going to be. You know, what is it, every month it's going to... Is that what it is? So, I that's where I thought the majority of the story was going to be based in 1999, because I think there's a lot there to discuss and to go over, and you know, there's just so many questions that come from that I don't think that we've been given even close to enough information to kind of formulate like a definitive. We can have a lot of theories, as I always do, but it's really hard to say, okay, this is what it is. And even with all the dialogue that we got, I think that was kind of the purpose why they did push everything together, because people would want to get more dialogue choices to get more of the story. You know, if you wanted to get your relationship with Eleanor out of the way first, and then you could move to somebody else without having to worry, because she would forget, so you don't have to worry about her coming back and killing you, or, you know, making a deal with the man on the wall, that kind of thing. You know, you don't have to worry about it. And you could go on to another, essentially another relationship and get new lore. And you know, did I say that because that's what I'm scared of? Yes, but that's not the point.
There are still undiscovered supply.
Yeah, we still don't know what this spark was that Intrati was talking about. Heck, we don't even know that the thing that we saw yet, the one that's been directing us is Entrati, because the Entrati that we saw that seems to speak with us largely appears to be what I would consider to be an unreliable narrator. Maybe just because it's so hard to differentiate between who's the man on the wall and who's not. But that little bit of kind of the whodunit that was in Warframe 1999, in my opinion at least, is what makes it so great. That to this point, you could probably go back and replay that quest and still not be definitively sure at any particular point. Should I try to find these things? Not right now. I'll get to that. Who's who? Maybe the only point was whenever the Indifference is speaking to Entrati.
Another job well executed.
Well, there it is, right there. You know, just the idea that there's so many of these differences in some of the characters too that we've kind of had to deal with. Consider that the Lotus seems very different. Post New War in particular, but definitely with her showing up at the Sanctum and acting the way that she does there. I did. I'm trying to think exactly what I do remember that part, but I can't remember what she said. I don't, you know what? I think I was trying to get with her. So I chose to not delve. Wasn't that an option that you didn't not talk to her about it right now or something like that?
Otis went mad for 3 milliseconds.
I didn't push her on it. So if you want to that's something that I actually have to go through is basically, yeah. Because I don't remember that, and I think, like I said, I'm mistaken. Well, I mean, I would assume that most of the people here are probably already past this point. Is there anybody in the chat that doesn't want to just put a spoiler thing on it? I guess you're going to see it regardless. I know that the part about us having a sibling. Does anybody else wonder if Rel was our sibling? And is oh, it's just, oh no. 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 Is it during Duviri or Angels in the Zeraman? I can't remember, but there's definitely an allusion to some kind of negative relationship. And the only reason why I wonder about Rel is because he seems to know us in the Chains of Harrow. Because he specifically asks, yeah, the main Okay, now hold on. Before we go any further into this discussion, it's very important. We have to stop. We have to stop because understand in the dialogue choices that we have with the characters from Warframe 1999, there are choices that we can make that insinuate that we had a sibling, but there are also it's kind of a choose your own adventure, and you really are making your own drifter story because there are many different things in the dialogue that you get that are completely contradictory to each other in nature. So saying that the information that we have from those dialogue choices is the definitive, like, lore of our character, you can't say that because it's kind of like you are making your own drifter's backstory, and there are, like I said, there are quite a few choices that the choices themselves are completely contradictory, meaning you either did this or you didn't do this. And if that's the case, if you can choose one or choose the other, that means that it's not a definitive timeline. So we may have had a sibling. There is, at least in some variation of the timeline of the Warframe thing, we did have a sibling. But then there's also a variation that we didn't have a sibling. I think that's you have to look at it from that perspective, because that was one of the things that I remember kind of definitively about my first go through with like the beginning dialogues that we were having. I was like, wow, there is a lot of stuff in here that they are coming right out and confirming outright about, you know, aspects of the Warframe story. But then later in the dialogues, there would be a choice that I would make that would be like, wait a second, if I make this choice, then that means that can't be correct. And so that's kind of when I was like, okay, I get it. This is DE giving possibilities. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Oh, there's a scene in the what do you call it, Chains of Harrow, where he specifically says, "Well, you hated me." Like where it says, "Well, why are you helping me? You hated me." And taking what I saw from the Angels of the Zeramin, there is this scene where there's presumably our parents with a Tenno, and then there's like kind of a shadow kind of looking away. And again, now this is a lot of different things kind of put together, but one of the things that I kind of pulled out of what do you call it? Chains of Harrow was that Rel had to have been very, very intelligent, very knowledgeable, because there's that part where they talk about the Brankel gap and blah blah blah, and he seemed to have, and like the mother was like, I don't know, you're better with those things.
Has been compromised. Defend the cargo until reinforcements arrive.
And again, this is just me speculating, but I kind of wondered if that scene was meant to depict one way or the other, one of the children being kind of, like kind of put above the other, and causing a reason for the quote-unquote hatred. I don't know. Wait. What do you what Bazooka? What can buff operator, necromancer, and railjack? What are we referring to here? Because I'm There's a lot about the Chains of Heroes quest. There's so little dialogue. But where you have to kind of go is into the Rel webcomic to get a little bit more context. And from there's a character with red eyes that is the person who essentially puts Rel out, if you will. And well, the only character that I know that would have had that going on at that point, at least, especially from if you look at the, again, now this is tying a lot of things together. But if we take the era cinematic, where where our Tenno, presumably, with the man in the wall's eyes, seems to be in kind of control of the situation. And so I wonder if our character, our Tenno, after taking the deal, or our Tenno's, get ready for this, visage, wasn't the one that was the one that bullied Rel. For the very specific reason. And that's why during Chains of Hero, Rel was so surprised that we were trying to help. If you go through the transcript, you'll see he wants to know why we're helping him, because we hated him. And again, that's the interesting thing too with the webcomic with Rel, is that another Tenno is actually leading him into the safe area, and it's the Tenno with red eyes that keeps him out. None of the other Tenno there are actually, they don't have anything to do with it. It's just one. So what you have to do is look at, okay, so is the webcomic the real thing? Because in that context, there's only one real Tenno that bullies him. At least at that point. Like I said, there's definitely a Tenno that's trying to help him get to safety. So it couldn't have looked at all the Tenno as bad in that regard. And given what Rel's, let's say, significance would end up becoming, the man in the wall singling Rel out and making sure that he wasn't with the rest of the group, who knows, maybe there was a reason behind that. After all, it was really him that allows us to reawaken the indifference, if you really want to think about it. And more, when you go through the entirety of the Warframe story, you begin to see that a lot of what was done lot of the things that we have continued to do, whether we wanted to, like, whether we believed that this was going to be the case, or if that, this was just something that occurred per happenstance, the void continues to make its way, the indifference, if you will, continues to make its way into our reality through the actions of the Tenno.
Let's go home.
So, in that regard, that's I'm not saying that Rel is the sibling. I'm just saying that if I could put all those scenes together, I feel like it would be a lot easier to visualize. Well, here's something else that you want to ask yourself, SideQuest. Given how these memories are reclaimed, if you will, and given how we know that Ballast essentially used the same type of thing to manipulate people into believing things through the Narmer Veil, the question that we have to really ask is, are the memories that the Tenno are being shown, are they actually memories, or are they manipulated memories?
Operator, Ordis has been interfacing with the Foundry's AI precepts. You could say we forged a new connection.
Yeah, and I think, Livarius, I think that's what it is. That's what it's allowing. But I think there's a lot of people that they want a definitive timeline. They want it so bad in Warframe. And you're just, I don't see how you can give one. There's not enough information. You can theorize a timeline. You can theorize a bunch of things. But there's just so little in the definitive. And there's so many little things that you can pretty much take any theory and deconstruct it using this event and this event and this event as examples of how this wouldn't work, that locking anything significant down is next to impossible. Yeah, and I mean, again, I think what DE has done with the story of Warframe is essentially allow enough story to give you the path, but not nearly enough to give you a line. Like you can absolutely kind of see where the story's going, and you can put this thing together and that thing together. But finding a definitive timeline, yeah, good luck. Hey, Highlander, how are you? Well, that's a good point too. Timeline isn't needed if the story is about the player. You choose your own adventure. You know? Well, I actually think this. I think that when we're talking about the prequel trilogy, when we come to Star Wars, I think the main issue was that people were expecting another Star Wars, and you can't expect that. You can't expect you can hope to get greatness, but you can never expect to get greatness. You know, lightning gets caught in the bottle all the time, but figuring out the formula for catching lightning in a bottle is almost impossible. If I could get a story or something else, what would I like? I mean, I will be completely honest with you. The story that Warframe is putting out to me right now, right? Straight up. Let's go do Heart of Deimos. We might as well. Let me just get a little upgradey. Oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna go get my Arcwing first because I want to be able to actually move around. Yes, yes. Give me this.
This is the master blueprint for the Odonata Arcwing, the first of many Arcwings. To complete it, you must find its component parts. Unfortunately, an ancient Orokin archive detailing the locations of the parts was recently stolen by the Corpus. Your first job is to recover this archive. Hurry. The Arcwing needs to be ready before the Baylor Fomorians launch their first attack.
So, what I was saying was the story that we're getting. I love it, and I think what I would do with the story, you're actually seeing in a lot of my theory crafting because whereas I absolutely believe that I am using the context of the lore that we're given, the information that we're given. I mean, I 100% believe that I'm using all that. At the same time, I will say that I just love where the story's going, so it's very easy for me to kind of make my own theory as far as what I would consider the true timeline. But I mean, if you're asking me the story that I want for Warframe, it's not too different from where we're getting. I'd say the only things that I think might be controversial is, and I wish I could go to this. There's this like diagram in the Sanctum. It's actually in the back rooms and everything else too, but it's like a line between two circles, and then there are all these kind of branching off little areas that are connecting. And to me, I look at what's happening in the Warframe universe.
Of much needed Arcwing parts. Your mission is twofold. Cut off their access to the void and recover the data. Get to the portal. Shove the Corpus out of the void before we search for the Orokin archive.
All right, I got it, Liz. I just look at it like, consider that if the many worlds theory, the idea of branching timelines and stuff like that, right? If that was real, like really real, one of the things I think people don't think about when they consider that is like, what would be the method, the mechanism? I think you could make the argument with like dark matter or something like that. It's like the fulcrum behind it working. But in the grand scheme of things, what we're really looking at is, imagine if the fulcrum behind the many worlds theory was the void, and specifically, now that it has a face, the man in the wall. So if you were to go to a different timeline, if you went back to the timeline, but the timeline was created based upon memory versus it being the actual timeline itself, right? How would you know the difference?
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
And it's one of the main ideas behind why I think that Warframe 1999 and potentially in Eternalism as a whole isn't necessarily going back in time to change something, Rather, it's creating a new variation of that timeline to pick from, to gather from. Essentially, in the we get the example of Lintana's parents are alive and dead. Well, consider that. What if the original choice that was made, whoever it was, save mom, save dad, was the actual person, but the other that was saved from a conceptually created timeline. Again, how would you know the difference? Yeah, okay, I agree with you on the fog thing. It gets a little crazy at times. I would like them just kind of back off just a bit on that. I mean, SideQuest, the way that I look at things, the way that I try to portray the story is you have to do it open-ended. I just don't see any way around it. Like, that's why the things that I say are, it appears to be this way. It seems to be this way because as much as I want to say, hey, this is how it is, the next update could change that. And the worst part is that they could have a very, very good and in-game and in-contextual reason why it changed. And now my information is wrong. And I feel like it's happened, a couple times already with certain things, so... You mean that? So I, personally, that's another thing. Like, I really think, this is in my version of the Warframe story. I think people missed out on what Entrati was saying. I really do believe that they missed some crucial details within the story itself. And as much as they want Entrati to be this changed person, I think when he said that the poison to the plan was love, that's the weapon that the Indifference is going to wield, not the thing that it's weak against. And I think in the contextualization of Entrati and everything that he talks about throughout that quest, it's continually reiterated. Don't get emotional. Don't get emotional. Don't get emotional. So why then would love be the weapon that would be useful against the Indifference if love itself is the exact thing that Entrati keeps telling us to not do? Get emotional. And I think so many people have looked at it because they want to see this relationship with Lloyd so badly that they don't realize that Entrati's an asshole. He's not a good person. And and if you don't believe that, you really need to look at the overall body of his work and start to realize that if that is the case, if he's looking at it as love as the weapon against the Indifference, that it goes against everything that he says, everything that he teaches. And what makes me concerned is that there are these little instances that I cannot just turn my head to when it seems like Eleanor, in our relationship, says some really weird stuff. And, like, especially, what I don't understand, what I couldn't understand is during their kiss, the dialogue that I got with Eleanor is our love is a terrible and, like, savage thing or something like that, a horrible thing. And I'm like, what? Why? That is such a weird thing to say. And then I start to think about what I went over in the ARG when we talked about the concept of that eye being actually the man on the wall and not necessarily Entrati. And I'm starting to get the idea that maybe, just maybe, this 1999 has been set up and is exactly what it's been kind of advertised as, even. Our own little personal hell that we're never getting out of. I mean, it's specifically told to us. And if it is hell, then is this relationship that we're in, these things that we're doing, is it all just, is it a trap? Are we delving even more information out to an entity that really doesn't need to know?
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
Now again, I'm the conspiracy guy, so I'm always going to look at things from this perspective because I've just been, I don't trust. When you get screwed over as many times as, well, let's put it this way, your trust in things begins to diminish. But unfortunately, too frequently, those new instincts have served well. And as I look at this whole scenario, I don't look at the man on the wall or Entrati as our friend. I don't look at either one of them as good people. I don't look at them as trying to save the world. I don't look at them as being positive influences at all, for the same reason, or for the reason that they are essentially the same person. If you look at Entrati and all the crap that he's done, and then realize that the Indifference was made from the Entrati that did all the crap and was a terrible person, it's, in my opinion, more intelligent and more likely to assume that both of them only care about themselves, nothing else, as at least one of them has absolutely exhibited in every scenario he possibly could. Yeah, I think the Indifference takes our emotions and is feeding on it. And with that in mind, is that something that we want to do? Is it smart? And then I look at some of,
Pick up the key.
like, the people that are the characters that I would say are, you know, quote unquote helping us, like Fibonacci and Tagfur and even Bird 3, and like I look at what Entrati did to them, and I ask myself, how could they possibly be on the same side as like Lloyd, given everything that's happened? It can't be. It's impossible. So that's why my opinion of the campaign seems to differ so much from everybody. Like I got a lot of comments back on the red pill that just, it's almost like they could not accept that as being a reality. And what was interesting is it's exactly the kind of concept that was the whole in line with the red pill, blue pill matrix thing. The people, certain people just would not be able to accept that this was the possibility, that this was the thing, and that they were intrinsically tied to the matrix. And it was a very surreal type of experience for me, if you will. I mean, in theory, I agree with you that Fibonacci is on our side. I very much wonder, when push comes to shove, if they need to make a choice between,
the enemy will not be returning anytime soon.
especially after chanting freakish praise to the one beyond the wall, and the way the Tagford talks about it. I wonder if when that time comes, what choice will they make? And will it necessarily be the one that we thought? Especially if they feel that, like, say, someone like Tagford doesn't want to help and try, as he's said numerous times, could his influence be enough to sway Fibonacci? Especially given the fact that Fibonacci probably still wants to make right what happened with Min.
Archive. You are one step closer to unleashing the Aquin.
There it is. There is no spoon. We think he had no proof. See, because here's the thing. I'm just beginning to wonder more and more what Entrati, let's say, completely knew and didn't know, and what he shared with certain people. Especially whenever I start to, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, but when you look into, like, the concept of continuity, the idea that it's, it is by all rights a void, situation to begin with. And with that, and having people like Parvos Granum knowing Void Tongue, and Executor Tuval knowing these quote-unquote ritual words, and the Indifference speaking in the Hex Quest about the fact that the Orokin took its flesh. Didn't necessarily say Entrati, said kind of the Orokin. So were there others that kind of took from the Indifference, and what did they know? Were there other people that actually could speak Void Tongue and could commune? And then you have the whole idea of, did Albrecht really not know how to commune in Void Tongue? And if he didn't, did he go to other people that he would have been able to, like Parvos? There's Orokin dealings between Parvos and them for Warframe. And I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say that I trust the Orokin, as much as I could throw them.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
I just don't know. I just don't know if the truth is necessarily right out there, staring us in the face, or maybe it is, and it's just not the truth that we are perceiving.
The Lotus has passed along possible coordinates for you to.
But I think y'all see where I'm coming from.
Check your navigation
right?
console for more information.
Uh-huh. There's our little piece of Eternalism right there. Let's go extract some blueprints. Well, the song wants you to pick a side. For certain.
The Orkin archive has led us to this location. Defend the
But
extractors until you find an Arcwing part blueprint.
is that song just another form of control? And do we need to pick our own side? Kind of like, getting back into the whole... I really do think there's some Matrix stuff going on in 1999. And I think there's a ton of references to it in the quest itself, without question. I even think that the color hue of 1999, which seems to have a greenish hue to it, is very Matrix-like. The fact that they're both set in the same essential timeline, or part of human existence. The turn of the century. I think there's a lot of significant correlations between them. Let's see, what does it say here? Could it be that those tenants who escaped the Zeraman are others? Ah, you're gonna love this one. That's maybe my favorite part of the whole, at least the second part of the Hex quest. Look, Entrati specifically and continuously refers to this other thing as the man on the wall. And if you start to look into some of the lore within Duviri, specifically with, I believe it's the, what's that? The one specifically about the Scholar's Land. No, not Scholar's Landing. The one with the children, the black-eyed children, and how they kind of come about and what they do. It really does make me wonder if the entities that we're meeting and communing with, if it's all just a big trap. Because at the end of that second, when we go through a second time, there's this great musical swell that goes on, right? And it's convenient that it's such a great musical swell, because if you turn off the music, like in the video that I presented, you get to hear Alberic's voice, and I'm going to tell you flat out, that doesn't sound like Alberic. It sounds like somebody else. And that's what he says, that the only way that this can be done is through others. And it's that same naming convention that I wonder if there isn't, if we're not going to find out in a year from now that all this stuff comes kind of full circle.
Excavator stalled. Find another fuel cell and take it to the excavator. This excavator is full.
Yeah, the Hollow Children. Which one is that one again?
Fuel cells will be used to restore its shields.
Well, there you go. That's another thing with the Warframe music now. The very Warframe music is essentially able to influence.
Head to extraction when you are
So,
ready.
I mean, consider that.
Excavator is ready to go.
And there it is again. That's the beauty part. The Orkin are deathly afraid of twins.
Proceed to the dig site.
It's all coming full circle now. All these little threads that were like put out years ago are now kind of coming to fruition. And it's you go back through the the war, or I should say the war now, you can find so many little just things that just reinforce certain points. It's all making sense now. I mean, the whole concept of the Grineer Queens is finally has, and why things, there's finally a reason, if you will. Oh, I mean, and then that's another thing. So then on top of it, as far as I can tell, then you have the lyrics to the music in Warframe 1990. Every one of them, is the ones that have lyrics, they're all significant. They all are talking about the story itself. Even like pick a side is, like if you go through any of the ones that have lyrics in them, the lyrics will be essentially about the story. Heck, you could even make, this is the craziest thing, you can even make the case that the song that DE picked for Whispers in the Walls from 9 Inch Nails, Into the Void, is, I mean, obviously Trent Reznor didn't write the song, maybe he did, about Warframe 1999, about Warframe, but the lyrics in there go right in line with what you're watching at that particular moment. So there's this whole other dynamic that's really going on with Warframe's lore. And now when you start to tack on the ARGs and stuff that they've, they're putting in, with especially this one, I feel like the former ARGs were definitely fun and interesting for getting like what we would call back lore, right? Hey Esther, how are you? But this particular one was a very significant piece of the story. Because if you didn't actually go through the ARG before you played, and if you have no context of the ARG, before you go and play the Hex Quest and whatnot, and continue to do your, missions and grind your rank and everything else like that, there is huge piece of context that you don't have. And you'll never know. But for the people that did play the ARG, they know two things. One, that the eye that's watching you, that thing that continues to pop up, is actually the Indifference. Watching. And I think that in itself is it's a huge thing to not realize, because most people will invariably look at that and they'll just be like, oh, that's the Entrati symbol. But with that in mind, then you also have the idea that if he's watching all the time, everything that goes on, exactly, what's... Yeah. Then you have the idea of the proto-frames and the warframes. But you also have one other thing in that was kind of revealed in the ARG that I'm not 100% sure, like how people would perceive it if they hadn't played the ARG, because I played it, or I went through it, but the very end, there's the thing that says the sequence is completed, and without the ARG, that would have a completely different meaning.
Oh my! The operator has returned with an Arcwing part blueprint. You must forge it immediately. It won't be long now until you are flying through the skies like
we're just doing the things now. Yeah, give me some wings. And all right. Yes. Getting closer and closer. Wait, real quick, let's just see. We got to get to Mars too, because I did find I have a Iatan, and got to sell that off for Smendo, because we gonna need that. No, can't put that on. Take care, Livarius. Thank you for joining. Well, there, Monk. There's another thing there. Void attuned, by our understanding, would be essentially somehow infused, or at least aligned frequency-wise with the void. And in that would most likely also kind of insinuate that, again, if we go back to what we were talking about before, the void seems to have access to everything that the void is a part of. So if that's the case, wouldn't that mean that they too would be, by rights, also privy to its influence? Oh, I saw that side quest. You get this. You can actually get a couple little messages from her too. She just really wants you to know who she is.
The Orkin archive has led us to this location.
I just tried to pop up
the extractors until
and,
you
and
find
do
an
my
marked
Xeneric
part
juice.
blueprint.
Didn't work. True, but I mean, like, he seems to make out that Void Attuned is different from regular Warframes, and regular Warframes would have... That's an interesting thought. Are the Tenno the ones that give the Warframes their abilities? Or the Warframes have their own abilities? Because they seem Void... Interesting thought. Might as well pick up a couple of these. I'm sure we're going to need them at some point.
While protecting it from enemy fire.
Oh, so much easier. Yeah. And I mean, that is the thing with it, is that we have these gifts given freely, but still given, and one would assume that would be under its jurisdiction.
This excavator is fully powered. Additional fuel cells will be used
Like,
to restore its shields.
can it take our powers away? Because there's two sides to the thought process. There could be one that, well, if he could, why wouldn't it just do it? And maybe it's because we still need to do something for it yet. I mean, after all, we really want to think about it. We are the sole reason why it's here. We followed its influence from initially at the end of the War Within. And then, I mean, we didn't really have to go, if you think about it, and help Rel. We could have just let that thing kind of do its thing. Yet, we decided to go there, so we kind of awakened the Indifference. And then, if you go through the entirety of the story leading up to the new war, you have us basically doing what it wants to get Ballas the power to open the portal at the end, thereby allowing it to come into our world, which is actually in the Codex and the Sanctum Anatomica. So we helped it get in, and then we may have helped it with 1999, because essentially we did what, by all rights, we did what the Indifference wanted versus what Albert wanted us to do.
Excavator is ready to go. Keep it powered and protect it from enemy fire. An artifact has been
All right,
located.
we're just talking some Warframe lore like we do. And the best part about this is again, how I've kind of stressed a couple times here. We don't know. We don't know its intensity. Like in many situations, you'd have, at this point, the antagonist's intentions would be on full display. But we still have no clue. We don't know what Entradi's doing. We don't know what this spark is, what it's supposed to do. We know it requires, I guess, a timeline or at least an area. It all depends on the power of the reactor, but then you have to, what exactly is this spark thing? Again, in my opinion, these are all the marks of, especially in the context of, let's say, live service storytelling, because obviously you can't just make these nicely tied together stories and then have another one that's nicely tied together and then that one starts. And you can't do that. You have to have kind of an overarching thing. So the idea that we're still at this point in the game so ignorant to what's the intentions are, what the motives, and it makes the entirety of our community split in even who they would support if you had to make a choice. In fact, I'm actually kind of curious, given what everybody knows. I think I've done this before, but just to kind of I don't know, show, if you have access to the chat right now, if you had to choose between Entradi or the Indifference right now, and who you would support, who would you do? Who would you definitively take? And in a little bit, I think you guys already know who I would take. But I am curious. But okay, but here's the thing about that end. And I have an issue with believing that was Entradi. And the reason why I have that issue is because just before then, we saw Entradi beat to hell. And yet that Entradi that we saw had no marks whatsoever. The one that said that they wanted to go to Tal, that Entrati was completely healed. Is that something that he can just do? Because according to like the earlier lore that we found in, you know, like with his initial encounter with the Indifference, I mean, it messed him up bad. He had to be in like basically in an incubation pod for a while and be like rebuilt. Team Ballas. Again, I don't necessarily know that. In the grand scheme of things, Ballas is no worse than any of the rest of these guys. He may have different ways about it, but again, there's all these little things in those two
Orders
portions
does hope to see the Archwing soon.
that I just think the entire aspect of 1999 was meant as a whodunit, and you're still not supposed to know who done it. Can I make anything else? Oh yeah. Yes, but that's essentially what Entrati is wants to do with all of 1999. That's my whole point. Is that yeah, Ballas is terrible, but how is Entrati any better? Are you sure it was a bad edit? That's the question that you have to ask. Was it a bad edit? and you have to continue to go back to the idea behind that mission in particular at the very beginning of it. It literally comes out and tells you, you're in hell. You're never getting out. So who are we? What do you believe? What do you believe? And are we insinuating, okay, that what we did at the end, right? What we did at the end of the quest would have in any way brought us out of hell? Not to mention, what you all have to remember is and I'm sure you know most of you remember this, but bear in mind that we don't know, given that it appears like other Orkin have had engagement with the Man in the Wall. It's very, very possible, and I would say almost probable at this point, that Ballas was influenced by the Man in the Wall the same way that we were. I mean, again, you look at what happened at the end of the New War as what was Ballas's goal, but the thing that you don't think about is that what happened at the end of the New War was the Indifference's goal too. It needed that portal. So who cares if Ballas was going to Tau? The Man in the Wall wanted in, and he used us and Ballas to do it. And guess what? We did it. We did it. I mean, and Tau could be one of these things that is very real because, again, there is actually there's a tablet in Duviri that actually talks about the solar rails are already being either completed or have been completed by special agents of the Orkin. You know, this, that, and the other thing. Like, there is dialogue saying that this is going on, but the problem is that the narrators of the dialogue are manipulators by trade. It's what they do.
The Orkin archive has led us to this location. Defend the extractors until you find an Arcwing part blueprint.
So while I'm not saying that everything that people say has to be disregarded, what I am saying is everything that is said, especially by certain parties within the Warframe universe, needs to be at least held to some level of scrutiny. Because, as who said this? Cybers. Everyone is manipulating the Tenno and trying to use them for their goals. Nobody's trying to help the Tenno out. Heck, you could even make the case that even the Lotus, the person that supposed to love the kids and everything else, at every turn when it came to wanting to tell the kids the truth, she has balked from it. So, is it possible that she, too, is part of the manipulation? Yeah, she may absolutely adore the kids, but she may also may also be keeping them under a level of control. And then you start getting, okay, how deep does the control go? Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. This is what we do. This is going to be pretty much every Sunday. I may alter the time a little bit here and there, just to switch it around for people who can't make an earlier stream or later stream. But yeah, just sitting there and BSing about the Warframe lore and timeline, because there's so much data now that it's. You can get into some really interesting discussions and flesh out some very intriguing possibilities.
Go to the dig site.
Yeah, I like Hanhao. I don't want to turn on him. He's like Grandpa Hanhao. Heck, he's one of the few people that actually seems to care about the Tenno, even in the most bland and cursory way that you can think of it. Only because I think that they took an interest in her, or in his daughter. And I think it showed that he's not Orkin, or that the Tenno aren't Orkin. They are definitely, even though now that we know, it's very likely that he was heavily a part of the manipulation that got the Tenno to turn on the Orkin, right? I think what the new war showed him is that the Tenno are making decisions for themselves now and are anti-Orkin themselves. It's not like a situation where they show any loyalty here. And again, my biggest thing, and I know it's terrible to say because of how much of a piece of pure garbage Dallas turns out to be. But there is a level that I can't help but sympathize with him. And I really do think the new war in particular isn't the Tenno's quest. It's more Ballas's quest. Because within that, there are so many little subtle things that go on that, like, again, it's weird to have this, I guess, but almost breaks your heart because you can tell Valis is a man just lost. But unfortunately, he is an incredibly intelligent and incredibly dangerous man that is lost without his Lotus, his Margulis. And I think if you, given just kind of the context clues of what we get, I think if you were to have seen Balas's relationship with Margulis before all of this, I think what you would come to see is a very, very close relationship. Like you would see two people that were like really, really in love and infatuated with each other and everything else. Because Balas doesn't give a shit about anything, but yet Margulis is just the greatest thing in the world to him. And he makes that clear in so many different situations that she is his, she's his like everything. And for her to kind of, it almost, you almost get the feeling of her feeling like that he was cheated on with the Tenno, because, and I think this is the thing that people miss. It's like, hey, how can you act this way with kids, and they're just kids and blah blah blah. Yes, that's true, they're kids, but they're not his kids. And they're not her kids. So the idea that she meets these children that by all rights almost kill her, kill other Orokin, deface things, and she chooses them over him, especially being the narcissist and douchebag that he is, would probably be pretty damn jarring. And in his defense, like, it would be like completely out of the blue. Like, what? And you see this throughout the new war.
The operator
Where-
has all the necessary blueprints to craft an arc wing.
I think it's
So what are you
especially
waiting
evident
for?
whenever the Drifter has the veil over, and you can see the inverse of how Balas feels as the Lotus is speaking. And, if you're truly in love with somebody and they just, and like they're your everything, and you guys, you just do everything together and blah, blah, blah. And now this person just leaves and is no longer available. And now they put all their effort into something else, and maybe they're not around as much. And maybe they don't even, have anything to do with Balas anymore because they're so interested in their work with transference. And here he is trying to do stuff with her thing. And in that quest, you can just feel the pain of Balas as he continues to say, I loved you. I love, and again, to me, the point that makes this all so, it hit the hardest, at least for me, is at the very end of the new war, where Balas is at his literal peak of power. Even the Tenno can't seem to do anything against him. And when the veil goes on, the Tenno puts the veil on Balas, and he sees his Margulis again. It completely disarms him. He doesn't even care about power. He drops the paracesis. He forgets his whole concept of going to Tau. The only thing that matters to him is that he's seeing this person again. And he lays down all of his power right at that moment, at the very peak. Now, if you're going to tell me that a man who is this terrible, evil-doing killer, blah, 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 yes, he's all those things, but at the end of the day, you can also make the case that stuff was done because he essentially was consumed by his dark side once he was forced to put his lover to death. And that was the only option. Balas couldn't have said no. He could not have told the Orcan if they believed that Margulis had to die because of her choices. Ballas couldn't have just said, "No, this is not right." He himself would have been then put to the Jade Light too. It was at that moment that his plan took fruition, when he realized that he could not sway the Lotus into making a different decision. And granted, remember, he gave her the choice, you know. When he realized that he could not sway her and that this was going to happen anyhow, it was at that moment, in my opinion, that he decided, I'm going to destroy the Orcan. And that's exactly what he did. From the inside. He couldn't, you know, Ballas couldn't just, "Oh, okay, you're all mine now. I'm going to kill you all." He couldn't do that. Impossible. But given his connections, his abilities, his intelligence, his manipulative tactics, he could manufacture a coup from the inside, which is exactly what he did. So I just feel like Ballas is a very unique and incredibly well-written antagonist. That he's one of those antagonists, I hate to say it, you can put him right on the lines, in my opinion, with Thanos. You don't like what he's doing, but if you dig deep enough into the concept, you can kind of see what happened. And you look at it and, like, this is what I postulated to another one of my streams a while back. Like, consider, for those of us that are in the chat right now, consider if you had lost the one you loved to a group and were forced to put her to death, or put him to death. You yourself, they made you do it. How restrained do you think you would find yourself after that moment? Or would you be so full of vengeance that collateral damage would be a probable thing instead of a possible thing? Especially if you had the means to do it. I mean, yeah, but Thanos, in order to save people, he also killed an incredible amount of people. So was he saving people, or was he just giving half of the population a better life? Because that's really what it came down to. He murdered half of the universe so that the other half could live better.
Congratulations, you've crafted an Arcwing. Now I must commence calibration. So much to do. By my calculations, this process will take 372
Thought we were gonna lose it there.
hours.
It's a long time.
That does seem like a long time.
Tenno, this is an urgent mission. A Corpus scout ship with information about the location of the Grineer Baelor Fomorians has been located. Raid this ship for intel. We need to know everything they do.
Well, I mean, I agree, but it's just his thought that it's the only choice. Like, I think that's therein lies the trap of Thanos. That's a lot of people to kill for a vision that you have only seen essentially on however many planets. He doesn't know what he's doing on the vast majority. He doesn't know how many people he's going to kill. He doesn't know how, let's say, how populated a particular area is. much of his plan would wipe out certain populations that weren't big enough to sustain, that were hardly big enough to sustain themselves to begin with. Do you know what and I do know. Understand, I think Thanos is one of the best characters, bad characters written until Endgame. Then he sucked. But before then, amazing. And I again, I love this point. I Infinity War was like Return of the Jedi thing, Matrix, like, you know, like it was an event that if you were privy to be there at the time, if you got to go see Infinity War at the time, and you went into the theaters and you saw it with people, you got to be part of an event. You got to be part of a thing that is so rare.
Tensions between the Grenier and
In
Corvus
that
are boiling over. You're here to find out what the Corvus
the emotional state of the theater, at least the one that I was in, and I'm guessing was, you know, probably everywhere, was almost in unison because of how much we all felt the exact same things. So much to the point that I'll never forget this. You know, when Thor comes down and hits after picking up Stormbringer, right? Or Stormbreaker. And he comes back to Wakanda. Like the you could feel that in the theater. It was palpable. There was a joy and a presence that everybody was a part of, that was like this organic, just powerful thing that just erupted through the theater itself, and in its own way was kind of like a living, breathing thing that everybody was a part of, and we were just all down with it. It was just amazing. And then the end of that movie produced the exact opposite effect, where you could feel the sorrow, the loss that everybody was experiencing all at once, and the confusion and the sadness. And it was just like, through the credits, for as much as everybody was hooting and hollering at the Wakanda scene, and Thor putting his axe through Thanos and everything else like that, like, that's as dead silence as it was in that moment where the snap happened. And people were just like, you could just feel it. It was like, no. And like, you could look around and people were looking at each other for answers. Wow, what?
Stay focused.
No, how?
Heavy unit approaching.
You know, like, it was like we were there. Like, we were part of this universe. And we questioned the how is this possible? How could this thing happen? And people walked out genuinely in shock and sorrow and depression. And it was beautiful. It was just like one of them things that you don't get. These are like once in a lifetime, or moments in a lifetime, if you will. You know, they come not necessarily once in a lifetime, but they're fleeting, and you just, if you're fortunate enough to just have a little piece of that, and just to be there for it, man. Ooh, it's a memory. Yeah, or waiting for this post-credit scene to just say it isn't so. Something.
You only have one chance. Orders. Deploy Arc.
But my calibrations.
And I feel like,
Orders. Do it now.
Okay.
Maybe I'm off on this, but I feel like that's what I felt during Warframe 1999.
Tenno, you need
Okay,
to get
and
to the
maybe,
other side of
honestly,
this
like, I
refill
think you could
where
make that
Orders
case
can
too for the
safely
new war.
extract you.
You know, I think the vast majority of us, I'm guessing, when the Lotus was, you know, revealed, and, you know, the hand thing and everything else, there was probably quite a few of us that had a very similar thought. Like, what?
Destroy that Zeppelin to take out the net.
You know?
almost through the debris field. Just a little bit further.
Like I said, there's a little piece of
That Zeppelin just
dialogue,
engaged an
right?
energy net. You're
During
stuck here until it's destroyed.
I'm not going to get into it now because it's going to be part of the video.
Stay
That would
focused.
be a major
There's a
thing
enemy
to
unit
essentially
approaching.
reveal. But
Energy
there's a
net
little
disabled.
part of
Keep moving.
Ordis's dialogue in his Beast of Bones.
Operator, the Archwing is performing beyond expectations. I suppose my calibration process was not necessary after all.
The things within the codex that I believe strongly insinuates
Tenno, you have to keep moving.
that not only was Ballas, you're gonna love this, Ballas may not have been alive and was brought back. And I think that the Seven, I think I said this earlier, have the same capabilities. Whether or not DE wants to go down this path with the story, that'll be another thing. But they have baked into the lore
Get
already
to cover. The Fomorian's guns will obliterate you.
a method by which at least the Seven can come back with very easily.
You're almost through the debris field. Just a little bit further. Artis, can you extract now? Tenno, stand by for pickup. Another job well executed.
So, like I said, if there's even, I don't want to get too much into it. If you have all of the scans done for your Cephalon
We
fragments,
now have the tools
and you
to
have
take on Vahek and his Baylor Fomorians. His
Ballas's
arsenal is
or
growing,
Orden's story,
but so will ours.
go through that,
There are
and
more
you may
Archwing
find
designs
something
and
in
more
there that
weapons. Together,
we
we can
probably
take
overlooked at the
skies and
time
confront this
because
new
it just
threat.
didn't really matter. It wasn't really an important thing. But in hindsight now, there's actually a ton of that, by the way. There's all kinds of little things in old stories that you can like go back and say, hey, look at this. Like this thing does this. And very cool. There it is. But here's the thing. One of the things that, let's put it this way. Ballas's consciousness may still be within something. And may be able to be reproduced.
Everything in Ordis, Operator? Is that a pun?
Oh, you're right.
Well, attempt to
Warframe
bypass this
hindsight revelations are just literally, they're on the table all year now, I think. There's all kinds of stuff you can go back to. Fortunately, I am going to have to make today's stream a little bit shorter than last one. I'm not going to be done yet, but I can't go the full 4 hours this time because well, I have to get ready. It's my mommy's birthday today, so we're going out to eat, and I got to make sure that we get ready for that. So I do apologize, but expect in the future here, I would say streams are going to be typically about 4 hours long. Depending on what we're doing, they might go a little bit over, might go a little less. But might as well do this, right? Gotta do this. That's the man. When we're talking about continuity now, see, that's the thing. Now we got to go back and talk about continuity. Because it's very possible that anybody that's done continuity may be able to be reproduced.
Show me that you know of the old ways. Eliminate all targets using your.
I will tell her you said that, Highlander. Thank you. Well, here's the thing, though. It's not just that, because you can choose not to drink the kuva, and he still comes out. Now, the question that we have to ask is what was the significance? And I think, you ready for this? I think the significance of that scene, because we've seen this countless times, is how pliable is the Tenno. I think that's the goal of that, of a lot of the things. How susceptible are you to influence? If you take the drink quickly, it almost feels like that's saying to the man on the wall, hey, okay, we're on the same wavelength. If you don't drink it, I think he says something like, don't forget, kiddo, you owe me, or something like that. But he's not as happy with you.
Unread inbox messages make me ill.
And it makes it really is. It's kind of a situation. Oh my God, no, not the Wave Rider. We're gonna put that one off for a little while. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. It's not gonna quite make it there. Yes. Any choice that if you drink the kuva, if you don't drink the kuva, he's still going to come out. He just has a different opinion of the situation. Let's put it that way. Damn, someone's pumping the bass out here. Let's start off with the veil. Then there's the other thing with the Ballas and Duviri. Now, a lot of people put that. I'm just going to throw out there what I've, the kind of the prevailing thought processes of Ballas and Duviri. Feel bad for this dude. It's like they're openly like torturing this guy in the relay, which just, I don't know. It just seems kind of weird. But anyway.
The old ways speak of a cleansing fire. We of the red veil must burn away the
Some people say that it's a portion of Kalervo's aspect of being in Duviri, but again, I don't understand how Kalervo got into Duviri. That really doesn't make... To me, the connection of Kalervo is the fact that Kalervo was one of the influencers of the Tenno. Essentially one of the people who, along with Ballas and with Hun Hao, kind of got the Tenno to turn, which is even more interesting that Ballas, given that they both, kind of are
sacrifice
together, if you will, on the matter. That they're opposed in there. So you can look at it as kind of like Kalervo's hell. Actually, that opens up a lot of questions about Duviri itself. Like, Duviri begins by all rights as a hell for the Tenno, does it not? For the Drifter.
Tenno, your codex
Did I not actually pledge? Yeah, I'll do it later. It's fine. Let's see if there's anything ready to go here. What quests we got? Ooh, how the Kubro, huh? Yeah, let's get a little Kubro action going.
So the Corpus have recovered an incubator segment. This is an
Yeah, it's
excellent
interesting how
opportunity. Every Tenno deserves to have a Kubro by their side.
yeah. Hester, you're not going to like my opinion of Dominus. I don't think that Dominus was created by the Drifter. Or I shouldn't say that. Dominus is the only character in Duviri that has human features. And why would the Drifter create Dominus in his own image? Because people confuse the Drifter and Dominus in Duviri. In fact, their names are interchangeable. And then I think about the idea that if the Drifter didn't, follow me on this, if the Drifter didn't take a deal, or maybe wasn't even ever presented a deal, wouldn't the Drifters first jump into the void be very much like Albric's first jump into the void? And Albric didn't take a deal either in his first iteration. So if Dominus looks like the Drifter and rules that area, Dominus was, now understand, yes, in the story itself, I'm not saying that Dominus Thrax as a character is the man on the wall. Like, as Eulyria wrote him, like, oh no, Dominus is the man on the wall. I'm saying that the person who's playing the character of Dominus in Duviri, follow me on this, if we consider that Albric's other acts almost identical to Albrecht in the mindset, if you will, right? And clearly, the man on the walls doesn't act anything like our Tenno, like the one that shakes the hand and gives the power. But yet, Dominus acts every bit like a child. And the Drifter was a child when it first went into the void. I'm saying that I think that Dominus is our other, is the Drifter's other. Because he functions exactly like the man on the wall does in Albric's situation. The difference is the mindset. See, the other's mindset that we deal with, the Albric's one, is like Albrecht. But the Drifter's version would be more of a copy of a child and has the same fear of leaving the area that a child might have. And I think it's one of the reasons why it says to us that like this is the only safe place. Well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't necessarily believe that so I think that, you know how like at the end of Whispers in the Walls, you have Albrecht and Trotty, and you have the the Tenno's copy next to each other, I don't think that they're hive-minded in the void, if you will. They have their own persona. They have their own even goals. They're just created. So I feel like at the end of Whispers in the Walls, what you're seeing potentially is two variations, two creations, two hollow children, if you will, that are just coming together and working together, potentially to even create, whatever a common goal is between them, maybe by the big man in the wall, the main man in the wall. Maybe that's the head person. You're right, he does, but at the same time, Duviri becomes a complete nightmare as he's basically killed over and over again. To me, that's what I'm saying. Like it's an odd sanctuary from the void to want to do that, or to have that happen over and over again. But that's my thought process. Acquire the incubators. Let's go do it. No, bear in mind, none of this is ironclad because DE changes stuff all the time. So please don't go away from saying, "Oh, this is it." I'm just saying logically. I feel like what I'm saying
The enemy busy while a fellow Tenno operative raids the ship for supplies.
fits what the
Trigger
lore
the alarm.
offers us. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to make my own story here. I'm just trying
have
to
just
make
shut
what
down
we've
all
been
systems.
given
I'm
fit.
sending life support capsules
And
your way.
with that, yeah, my personal opinion, I think this is that's what I want.
Look for personal
But even
life
now,
support
hasn't-
modules dropped by fallen
but-
enemies.
Thrax hasn't grown up. In fact, he acts like a child at the very end of Duviri. And then we essentially say, hey, you can just have Duviri. Don't worry about it. We want something else. So we may have grown up, but that variant is still an immature child. And I think I personally believe it's because that's what it was created, in the same way that
Life support
Albric's
incoming.
other can't be anything but what Albric
Life
is like.
support has been replenished.
And okay, so on the thing of being trapped in 1999, well, I guess what I don't understand is, isn't that what,
Activating it will buy
if
you more
the
time.
place that Entrati purposely himself went to was to get away from the Void, I mean, so much so that he literally had Void destroy any method of him coming back, why does he have a problem being trapped there? Well, everybody but the citizenry in Duviri are normal. I mean, they don't take on the exact same persona as human beings, but by all rights, they seem to have, especially when you think of like Akrathis and stuff like that, like they've lived full, complete lives. They some of them have been in relationships. They're
Life support on the way.
this conceptually created place. I mean, it's been, you know, privy to real life happening. I mean, you have a definitive timeline, kind of
Additional life
described
support has arrived.
in the lost notes where, or in the things you find in Duviri where,
Life
you know,
support
certain
active.
islands have left and come back, and or not come back, but the certain, like I say, yeah, the Pearl Harbor island came back, right? But other ones that used to be there are gone. And there's a whole island in Duviri that had a bunch of hollow children on it that is just missing. So who knows what happened there? Did they get out? Where are they now? Yeah, I mean, look, I know this sucks because I know everybody wants an emotional ending to this quest, right? You know, to kind of make it hit, like, because that's what, you know, quests usually do. But
Life support activated.
I just feel like Albert doesn't want us to take the emotional route, but that's exactly what we're being told to do. And I'm wondering what that means. Because,
I've delivered another
like I
life
said,
support
the end of
capsule.
1999, or the Hex quest, especially in that second variation, when you go around a second time, there's a lot of stuff in there that's very questionable. I guess I should. You know what? I'm gonna do Duviri after the New War, or maybe
When you need it,
Yeah,
extraction is ready.
I don't know. What do you think? Should we do it before or after? Which would make more technical sense? I guess before. We should probably do Duviri right before, huh? Because that would give the context of, like, whenever, so that thing's already taken care of, then we go into the New War.
Excellent work,
This
Cal.
happens. Like, if we could quit the New War at that point, and then play Duviri, and then come back to the New War, that would be the best, but you can't do that, so.
Critical life support levels. Extraction is your best.
Yeah, okay, we do before.
Joy. An incubator. The only segment Ordis is glad those savages looted. I would be happy to help you install
Put this in there. We got some
Ordis
stuff done
awaits
today.
Incubator segment installation. Operator, no need to rush.
Good. Now you just need a Kubro egg to start the process. Feral Kubro dens on Earth would be a good place to start looking.
Well, again, the only true way to see the New War is essentially to play it up to that point, and then play Duviri, and then go back. But you know, you can't do that. So again, that would be the best. That's probably how we're gonna have to do it. When I finally get through to my lore series, the New War is going to have to be more of a broader thing, because the New War is not just the New War. The New War is like 3 different quests kind of put together and stuff. I meant the Mimi. That is weird. The only way to actually get a dog is to kill dogs. But well, unfortunately, I do have to get ready and get moving here for the evening's festivities with my dear mummy. So I'm gonna have to stop the stream here. But we will pick it up right here next week. We'll keep going. For those of you that did join the scholars, I appreciate that and look forward to the members only stream. That'll be this coming weekend. It'll be a chance for you to just if you want to come in and play and kind of BS and whatnot, just kind of a little group of us. So for those that did join, thank you very much. For those that did have continued to join, I very much appreciate you. And for everybody that was able to enjoy this stream with me today, thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to be with me. It's really, really great that you're willing to do that. We will bring this stream back, like I said, next Sunday, exact same time. Okay, and we'll do it right from here. So, at any rate, have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of your week. I'll talk at you all the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.